Here.
Humphrey,
Here.
Price,
Here.
Sorensen, Sorensen,
Hey, Tom, are you there? Want me to call him off again?
might just swell. Ward,
Here.
Wilson,
Here.
Mayor Collier Wise.
Hey, Tom, are you there?
Here.
Tom, are you present?
I lost my mute button and I have it on off now. So this is Tom. I'm here.
Can you hear us?
I can hear you. Yes. I'm sorry. My screen went to a different place. I couldn't find my mute button, which was on. So now you can hear me. I hope.
Yep, we just
Yes.
took roll and you're present now.
Thank you.
All right, we will now say the Pledge of Allegiance, and Lindsay is going to lead us tonight, so if everyone else wants to mute while we do.
Okay. Kelsey cut out, so I'll just get started. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, and apologies if I'm cutting out tonight. I'm not sure what my issue is over here, but we'll do our best. We've got minutes from June 1st special meeting and June 1st regular meeting.
Move approval.
Second.
We've got a motion and a second. All those in favor, please signify at the roll.
Genowine,
Aye.
Helwig, Holland,
Aye.
Humphrey, Price,
Sorry, I cut out for a while. What are we voting on?
We're voting on the minutes.
Oh, aye.
Sorensen,
Aye.
Ward,
Aye.
Wilson,
Howard, you're muted.
Wilson,
You're still muted, but he's saying aye, Mike.
okay, Mayor Collier Wise.
Aye. Minutes carry. Adoption of the agenda. Do we have any additions or changes to the agenda, John or Mike?
Nope.
Okay, I would entertain a motion.
So moved, Wilson.
Second, Catherine.
Got a motion and a second.
Genowine,
Aye.
Helwig,
Aye.
Holland,
Aye.
Humphrey,
Aye.
Price,
Aye.
Sorensen,
Aye.
Ward,
Aye.
Wilson,
Aye.
Mayor Collier Wise. Mayor Collier Wise.
Aye. Motion carries. Visitors to be heard. Addressing the council. Persons addressing the council shall use the microphone at the podium or the comments on our YouTube live stream. Please raise your hand to be recognized. If you are in person, go to the podium, state your name and address. We ask that you also include your name and address if you are participating virtually. Members of the public may speak under visitors to be heard on any topic not on the agenda. From limited to 5 minutes, you may stop. Agenda item will be to the beginning of each agenda item. After the subject is now explained by any person who wishes may speak one time for 5 minutes on the agenda. Public has to hold, and this will be covered at a possible. At this point, only city council members and staff may discuss the current agenda item unless council member moves to allow another person to speak and there is unanimous consent from the council. Questions from council members, however, may be directed to staff or a member of the public through the presiding officer at any time. As we start talking about an agenda item, comments can be submitted on that agenda item. City staff will announce when public comment is closed in the comments as well. Is there anyone in the audience that has a comment on something that is not on the agenda?
No, there's none here at City Hall.
Okay. Then we do have a proclamation tonight for Juneteenth, and Julia?
Thank you. Whereas President Abraham Lincoln signed the Emancipation Proclamation on January 1st, 1863, declaring the slaves in the Confederate territory free, setting in motion the end of slavery and paving the way for the passing of the 13th Amendment, which formally abolished slavery in the United States of America. And whereas all people have the right to be treated on the basis of their intrinsic value as human beings, and whereas word about the signing of the Emancipation Proclamation was delayed some 2.5 years to June 19, 1865, when Union General Gordon Granger arrived in Galveston Bay, Texas, accompanied by Union troops. And whereas on that first Juneteenth, a name that combines June and 19, the people of Texas were read General Order Number 3, which stated, "The people of Texas are informed that in accordance with the proclamation of the Executive of the United States, all slaves are free. This involves an absolute equality of rights and rights of property between former masters and slaves, and the connection heretofore existing between them becomes that between employer and free laborer." And whereas Juneteenth is the oldest known celebration commemorating the abolition of slavery in the United States and the emancipation of African American slaves throughout the several states. And whereas, on a larger scale, celebration of Juneteenth reminds each of us of the precious promises of liberty, equality, and opportunity, which are at the core of the American dream. And whereas celebration of Juneteenth is about more than recognizing history, it is a recognition that social and institutional discrimination against African Americans is still a scourge in our society today. And whereas it is the sacred duty of a government that is of the people, by the people, and for the people to identify and abolish institutional and systemic racism in its society. And whereas all citizens have the right to hold their government accountable when it legitimizes a culture that makes them feel less than equal and that their lives don't matter. And whereas all citizens have the right to hold their government accountable when it legitimizes a culture that makes them feel less than equal, that their lives don't matter. And whereas we join together again to commit ourselves to take the action these words require, and now therefore be it resolved, we, the governing body of the City of Vermillion, South Dakota, do hereby proclaim June 19, 2020 as Juneteenth Freedom Day. In the City of Vermillion, to celebrate Juneteenth as a day of remembrance, contemplation, and continuing action. Dated at Vermillion, South Dakota, this 15th day of June, 2020.
Thank you, Julia. Moving on to public hearings. Item A is renewal of retail on-off sale malt beverage and South Dakota farm wine license at 11 Dakota Street from Cultural Association and 10 East Main Street. And Mike?
At the time of completing the annual renewal for the on-off sale malt beverage and South Dakota farm wine licenses, applications from Aramark Education Services, LLC for Aramark, at 1110 North Dakota Street and Vermillion Cultural Association for the Coyote Twin at 10 East Main were not filed in time to be included with the legal notice for the hearing on June 1st. So a separate public hearing was applied for tonight's meeting. The police chief prepared a report indicating the performance and when compliance checks were completed on the two establishments. The notice of hearing is also attached. The City Council has the ability to renew licenses on basically two criteria: suitable person and suitable location. With respect to the location criteria, licenses have both been approved in the past for these locations. With respect to the suitable person criteria, the City Council can determine that an applicant is not of suitable moral character and not renew the license. If the renewal of an application is denied, the motion must state the reason for denial. The city receives $150 for each on-off sale malt beverage and South Dakota farm wine license. Following input from the public hearing, the City Council is asked to make a decision on the reissuance of the retail on-off sale and South Dakota farm wine license for the two businesses listed.
Thank you, Mike. Is there anyone in the audience who has a comment on this?
None at City Hall.
Anything from the council?
Move approval, Wilson.
Second, Catherine, or whoever else did it.
I think it was Tom. We've got a motion from Howard, a second from Tom. YouTube.
No, there are no comments in the chat.
Okay. Is there any further discussion? Seeing none, we have a motion and a second. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye at the roll.
Genowine?
Aye.
Hellwig?
Aye.
Holland?
Aye.
Humphrey? Price?
Aye.
Sorensen?
Aye.
Ward?
Aye.
Wilson?
Aye.
Mayor Collier-Wise?
Aye. Motion carries. Next item is item 6B, special daily malt beverage and wine license for the Vermillion Area Chamber and Development Company on or about Thursday, July 9th, July 16th, July 23rd, July 30th, August 6th, August 13th, August 20th, and August 27th, 2020 on Radigan Platz, half block of Market Street south of Main Street, and Main Street as it abuts the Platz east to Center Street for Thursday's On the Platz event. And Mike again.
The Vermillion Chamber and Development Company has made application for a special daily malt beverage and wine license for their 8 Thursdays on the Platz events on the date stated. They'll be held on Radigan Platz at the corner of Main and Market, Main Street and Market Street, a half block south of Main Street. Main Street is abuts the Platz east to Court Street. Should be noted the VCDC changed the request for the street closing for this special license, with the east boundary being changed from Center Street to Court Street. The VCDC has also indicated that it might be applying for some parking spot exclusions in the near future, and so if these areas, if they're issued another license, will need to be excluded from this area. The expanded area this year is to allow for social distancing during the event. The license fee is $25 per day. The police chief's report and notice of public hearing are included in the packet. The city council, as this is on public property, is allowed to include such conditions as restrictions as the governing body deems appropriate and consistent with state law. The VCDC has provided a release and indemnification releasing the city from liability and a certificate of insurance naming the city as an additional insured for the event. We would need to consider excluding the removal of 3 parking space areas that may be coming up at a future meeting. They'll need to be removed at the request, as there might be 2 different license holders in these areas. Administration recommend approval of the special malt beverage and wine license for the Vermillion Area Chamber of Commerce and Development Company on the 8 Thursdays as stated on Radigan Plots, a half block of Market Street, south of Main Street as it abuts the plots, east to Center Street, excluding parking spaces included in another VCDC application for Thursdays on the plots events from 4 p.m. to 8 a.m. The motion should also address the request to use the Radigan plots.
Is there anyone in the audience that has any comments on this in person? I see we've got Nate on the call.
None here at City Hall, Mayor.
Okay. James, do we have anything that's come through in the comments yet?
No, we have not.
Okay. On the call, Nate, did you want to say anything, or do you just want to take questions?
I appreciate it. I'll be happy to answer any questions if you have it.
Okay. So turning to the council, looks like Steve has a question. Go ahead, Steve.
Oh, Nate, if we were to pass this resolution today, does that mean that you're definitely doing Thursdays on the plots?
Thank you for the question. To answer that, the answer is no. I can tell you that we're extremely committed to planning it, and we're committed to going through the process to see if it's something that we can do. But quite honestly, as we see throughout the last couple weeks, with the influx and a couple different things, we are still trying to determine if we would for sure do Thursday on the plots. So what we wanted to be able to make sure to do was provide a good scenario here so that you see a lot of the precautions that we're trying to plan for, a lot of the changes that we may do for this year due to the situation. But a vote in support or passing this today, I can assure you that we have not committed that we will for sure go through with it no matter what. There's a couple of things that we're still checking. Number one is going to be ensuring that our volunteers are interested enough to be able to do it and comfortable enough with it. The second thing is to get a sense from the public to see if they would come down. And then third and finally, to ensure that we in our processes can ensure that we enhance that safety and that comfort level for everybody. I'm not sure I can answer that for you right now, and we need a little more time for us to tell it. We just needed to take care of some of the logistical and the permit work for that, which is why you see it right now.
Okay, so what about ribs, rods, and rock and roll? I know that's not on this particular, but it's related to it. If the council passes this, I feel like then we are kind of tacitly giving our approval to ribs, rods, and rock and roll as well. What do you know about that? What do you know about plans for that as well?
Well, thank you for that. And I apologize. I don't know definite stuff for it. But what I can tell you that I know that their committee has been constantly meeting. I know they met within the last week or two. I did speak with their leadership from their board, as I know that they gather some of the perspectives. If there was anything of value that we could offer them, we did offer them some of the details of what we're trying to do and how we're trying to adjust some of the activities. But I have not been able to hear any final word if they have made a decision of either for sure postponing it or canceling it for this year, or if they're maybe in the same process of trying to make plans and see if it would work and sort of be ready to pull it out if they decide that it just does not work this year. One of the things that we really do, and we've stressed this to them and really all festivals, is we try to really set those deadlines of where's the cost and where's that commitment come to. and when do you need to make that commitment to the cost? And until you do, usually you try to kind of wait as long as you can before really saying, no, we're not going to do it. My guess is, and again, I'm speaking off of just assumption, my guess is Ribs, Rods, Rock and Roll is still in that assessment as well, as I have not heard officially from them.
Thank you.
Julia?
Thank you. I just want to say, commenting on, or following up on Steve's comment, I'm not sure that I see these events as equivalent. I think, you know, the context in terms of time matters, in terms of our population, our summer population versus our in-school population matters. And so I guess I just want to point out that I don't think that my vote on this is any signal about what I might vote on when Ribs, Rods, and Rock and Roll comes up later. I also want to say to Nate that I expect that if, you know, this approval goes for several events, right, the series of events. And so if we do it that first time and it doesn't work out, I fully expect you to, you know, consider changes or reassess the situation. Because that's part of the challenge when we approve a series like this. So if we approve of this, I think we put a lot of responsibility on you to plan those forthcoming events, not to see this as a chunk of, okay, we're doing all of the things.
If I may respond to that, Councilwoman, I completely appreciate and certainly see where you're coming from on that. And I appreciate just kind of the reminder in that. And I would absolutely, one, just kind of provide to you our word that we have constantly practiced being in a good partnership with the city. And that's how we would see that too. An approval of this expanded amount of dates, we would be sure to stay in good constant contact. And honestly, I'd be more than happy to, especially just because of the influx of where we're at in our times. If you would like us to sort of report back on it, again, with that full effort of being partners in all of this, I am more than happy to ensure that either I or a representative from our office is available to provide answers to the council as well as to the staff. So thank you for those comments.
I think I'd really appreciate that, at least after that first event, get some kind of feedback on how it went.
There's also a question from Tommy.
Julia's comment, a motion or simply a comment will be part of the record?
What was that? I'm sorry, I missed the...
I'm wondering if Julia's comments just made were a motion, and if not, will it still be part of the record?
How about I will make the motion to approve on both the licenses and the use of Rodigan plots, and that we'd like to see follow-up reports for the events.
Thank you.
Second.
We've got a motion and a second. Is there any further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor, please signify at the roll.
Genowine?
Aye.
Helwig?
Aye.
Holland?
Aye.
Humphrey?
Aye.
Price?
Aye.
Sorensen?
Aye.
Ward?
Aye.
Wilson?
Aye.
Mayor Collier-Wise?
Aye. Motion carries. Our next item is old business, item 7A, request from USD for temporary street closing of North Plum Street from East Cherry to Highway 50 on Friday, August 14th, Saturday, August 15th, and Sunday, August 16th, 2020, from 6 a.m. to 4 p.m. for USD's extended move-in day event. And John?
Thank you. Excuse me. Thank you. As the mayor read, a lot of the details on it, items 7A and 7B are very similar, although historically the council has addressed each one of these separately. USD is, this was on the agenda a couple weeks ago, and they asked to have it tabled as they reevaluated and adjusted their move-in plans a little bit. So the first request before you, as the mayor stated, is North Plum Street, and that closure would be from East Cherry Street to Highway 50. on the 14th, 15th, and 16th of August, that Friday, Saturday, Sunday. This street closing is from 6 a.m. to 4 p.m. For extended move-in days over those move-in times over those couple days. The application does indicate that they will be contacting the neighbors, particularly along Plum Street, to let them know of the closure. They've had good communication with the residents in the past. We appreciate they also use a professional traffic barricade company that helps supply and set up the barricades, and they've been able to run this very successfully over the past couple of years. One of the questions that has come up in past years has to do with the hold harmless and indemnification agreement. USD as a state entity can't necessarily check off on the information that's in our standard agreement. But what was developed a couple years ago, it's at the bottom of your page one of your memo, it extends to the next page. They use suggested language, be part of the streets closures consideration. So what we'd ask is, or recommend, is that the City Council approve 7A, which is the closure of North Plum Street on those 3 days in August from 6 a.m. to 4 p.m. And as part of your motion, acknowledge the hold harmless and indemnification language presented by the university as part of the proposal.
Is there anyone at City Hall that has any comments?
No, there's not.
Do we have any comments in the YouTube comments?
No, we do not.
All right, turning to the council, are there any questions from the council? Rich?
Not so much a question as a comment. It is noted that these are 3 days, which is normally it was 1 day, and I'd like to thank USD for thinking about that and maintaining the social distance, making it easier for the students to come back in an early manner and be able to keep social distancing as much as possible. So they've changed the procedures, and I think that's a great thing, and thank you for that. And yeah, I'll move approval of it with that, and also to include the holding harmless and indemnity language presented.
Second, Catherine.
Okay, we have a motion from Is there any further discussion from the council? Seeing none, all those in favor, please signify your approval at the roll.
Genowine?
Aye.
Helwig?
Aye.
Holland?
Aye.
Humphrey?
Aye.
Price?
Aye.
Sorensen?
Aye.
Ward?
Aye.
Wilson?
Aye.
Mayor Collier-Wise?
Aye. Motion carries. All right. Our next item, 7B, request to close Rose Street from Coyote Village to Dakota Dome on Friday, August 14th, and Saturday, August 15th, and Sunday, August 16th, 2020, from 5 a.m. to 4 p.m. for U.S.
This item is very similar to the last one. I guess I'll just note two differences. One is that I guess you don't want to be in the Rose Street crew because you have to be there at 5 a.m. versus the other one started at 6 a.m. So this closure is from 5 a.m. to 4 p.m. This closure is a little bit easier in that there are no properties along that section of Rose Street which have their main access off of this portion of Rose Street. Again, we would just ask that the indemnification language be recognized in the motion, but we recommend approval of the closure of Rose Street on August 14th, 15th, and 16th from 5 a.m. to 4 p.m. for USD's extended move-in day event.
Is there anyone in the audience or on YouTube that has any comments on this?
There's none at City Hall.
No comments in the YouTube.
All right, turning it to the council. Are there any council comments?
I have a question.
Go ahead, Tom.
Thank you, and I'm sorry, I meant to ask this on the previous item as well. This is sort of an annual question, but I assume that residents along these routes and including the Newman Center all have figured out how to wait till 4 o'clock to get where they're going or something. Have they been notified? Is that correct?
On this particular one, the Rose Street closure begins at Coyote Village and works to the north. So the Newman Center or the Spruce Street apartments, they wouldn't be involved. It would just be from Coyote Village to the north.
Thank you.
Sure.
Any other comments from the council? Go ahead, Rich.
I just want to move approval of the recommended closures and also to recognize they hold harmless and identification language as presented by the university on this motion.
Okay, we've got a motion.
Second, Brian.
Signify aye.
Genowine,
Aye.
Helwig,
Aye.
Holland,
Aye.
Humphrey,
Aye.
Price,
Aye.
Sorensen,
Aye.
Ward,
Aye.
Wilson,
Aye.
Mayor Collier-Wise.
Aye. Motion carries. Next item is new business 8A, annual Mid-American Energy Report. And I do believe that we have a representative from Mid-American on.
Hello. Thank you, Mayor. This is Mark Hogeworth with Mid-American Energy. Can you hear me? Is that a yes?
Yes.
Excellent. So I'm getting a little cutting in and out here on my end. So I appreciate the ability to be flexible during these times, to be able to do this remotely and a lot later in the year than we normally would be doing this. So some of the information will seem a little old now that we're in June talking about our annual report after 2019. But anyway, we have approximately 3,800 customers in the Vermillion city limits, so we see a steady, stable customer base. Cost of gas for the heating season, as has come up in previous annual reports, about 75% of our annual usage occurs during the heating season. We have no change to our base rates over the last year. The changes that folks, will typically see from month to month are the monthly adjusted cost of the purchase price of gas. In 2019, on average, month over month, so say June 2019 versus June of 2018, on average gas price rates, the purchase gas price was 12.34% lower than the previous year. Don't have a real good outlook at this point in time. It varies based on weather and other economic conditions, which are a little more volatile these days than they have been in the past. But gas still stays a very good value. On the staffing front, we really haven't had any change. We have the two-man crew that's based out of Vermillion that works very closely with our two-man crew out of Yankton. We've got 4 servicemen in the Highway 50 corridor, 2 that officially report to Vermillion and 2 to Yankton that cover together from their home starts, a measurement control technician that reports out of Vermillion, and then support from the surrounding areas, including our Beersford first responders and Sioux City, Northwest Iowa, and other areas as needed. Our 2019 leak response, we had 135 total leaks in 2019, so in the city of Vermillion, leak calls where we were called out to investigate. Our average response time was 21.71 minutes. Our maximum response time was 57 minutes. So we target meeting all of our leak calls within 60 minutes, and so last year was a year that we were able to do that within Vermillion. Construction activity, as far as new services were concerned, we had 20 new services, 5 commercial, 15 residential. We retired 6 services and installed 1,651 feet of new main. And that is the long and short of the report. Are there any questions?
Any questions from anyone?
A quick one.
Go ahead, Tom.
Thanks for the report. We appreciate it. Is there an employee who's on call in the city of Vermillion?
So our on-call rotates between various different folks that cover that area. So, we don't have one employee that's strictly dedicated to be 24/7 that's in town, so that, we don't have our individual employees always on call. So they have an on-call rotation. So it may very well be a Yankton employee that would be on call for any given after-hours sort of event, or it could be one of the folks. We have one that's near Elk Point. So they vary for who's on call at any given time, but the idea is to make sure it's somebody who can respond within that 60-minute time period to have available from a first response standpoint.
So your answer is no.
There isn't somebody in Vermillion, a Vermillion resident that's always the person that's on call. That is correct.
Okay, and I appreciate that. I know there was a recent retirement, but I can tell you that 21 minutes doesn't sound like a long time unless you're wearing full bunker gear on the fire department.
Right.
Thank you.
Okay.
Any other questions? Are there any other questions? Do we need to accept the report?
Acknowledge and receive the report.
Second?
We've got a motion and a second to acknowledge and receive the report. All those in favor, please say aye at the roll.
Genowine.
Aye.
Helwig.
Aye.
Holland.
Aye.
Humphrey.
Aye.
Price.
Aye.
Sorensen.
Aye.
Ward.
Aye.
Wilson.
Aye.
Mayor Collier-Wise.
Aye. Motion carries. And thank you for the report. We appreciate it. Our next item is 8B, emergency resolution to address COVID-19. And John?
Thank you. Back at the end of March, the City Council adopted Emergency Ordinance 1413, and then you modified that on May 4th with the resolution. But that ordinance did expire on May 30th of this year. At the June 1st meeting, the City Council had a fair amount of discussion with regard to Emergency Ordinance 1414, but did not adopt the ordinance that evening. But what did come out of that is that you directed staff to develop a resolution to address some of the COVID-19 practices. So a resolution was drafted. We based it a lot on the Ordinance 1413 that had expired, as well as the changes that were made with the May 4th resolution and some of the proposed language that was in Ordinance 1414. We put that on the city's website back on June 8th. We provided a copy to the VCDC, which placed it or sent out an email with a link to their members. And there's a group of restaurants and bars who had also sent the City Council an email. We did return or respond to that email those email addresses with also a copy of that proposed ordinance, or excuse me, with the proposed emergency resolution that's before you this evening. We did receive 2 comments on that here at City Hall, and both of those were provided to the City Council. The emergency restrictions or the emergency resolution that is attached, as you'll see, is very similar to what we saw with the past ordinance. I might just highlight a couple of items that are a little bit different, potentially in the proposed resolution than they were in the ordinance that was adopted from March 30th to May 30th. This proposed resolution does not include any occupancy restrictions on any of the businesses in the resolution. It is noted that businesses are not to exceed their posted occupancy. Restaurants are encouraged to have at least one table which is 6 feet away from other tables, but they're not required to do so. We are trying to promote the social distancing as much as we can. And our restaurants pretty much are all doing this now, but food service employees are asked to wear a mask when they are serving dine-in customers. But we're also saying to the public it's important for the public to wear masks, and so the wearing of masks by the general public when social distancing can't be maintained is recommended in the proposed resolution. There's language about a plexiglass or similar divider between the customer and the cashier, or an employee that might be serving as a cashier to wear a mask. It does include some languages in the first part about employees of nail salons, hair salons, spas, barbershops are required to wear a mask during customer contact time, and that customers are to be seated 6 feet apart. And then the video lottery casino operations, they're to be clean between the machines, usage of the respective different customers. So that's a few of the highlights of the proposed resolution. As per the council direction, we did try to get that out and make that available for people to take a look at. I think Nate may, if he's still on the phone or is still connected to Zoom, I think there might be some ideas that he has with another similar type proposal that encompasses some of the same things that I think the VCDC is looking at, working with our business community on. So if the council wants to hear that proposal with regard to how that matches up with the resolution, that may be appropriate at this time as well. And then I guess the only other thing I'd add is the continuing discussion about some of the park and recreational opportunities. The only two which, to my understanding, were carried forward for this evening were opening of the basketball courts in the city parks as well as the playground equipment. So those, I guess, are the to-do list, so to speak, of this agenda item.
Thank you, John. And maybe before we move on to discussion, I will ask Nate to talk a little bit about sort of the alternatives that the VCDC and the business community came up with so that we can discuss those in tandem.
Sure. Thank you very much, Mayor Collier-Wise. So if I may, just a quick little background on where we've kind of gathered some great inputs in this. And I know, as all of you have been in the discussion for so much, so I'll try not to go into too much detail. But as you mentioned, as John had mentioned, you had asked and directed him to make sure to get this out, and we appreciated that. John sent that over to us at VCDC. We sent that, of course, out to our businesses. Part of it was for time, part of it was just to help save everyone from another survey. We did not do this in survey form, but what we did was we hosted a couple of our own town halls and Zoom meetings with our businesses to not only discuss this resolution, but also even some other ideas of how we can all continue to work together. And so those other ideas we'll probably talk at another time. I think what I'd like to really focus on is just offering out maybe another way in which being able to provide this type of positive encouragement and education to our businesses and to our community of who and what is doing what to try to mitigate as much of the risk. And so what I wanted to make sure that you were aware of is beginning as soon as possible, I would say within the next day, the BCDC will be rolling out a new campaign that ultimately is a commitment to revive Vermillion. Part of the puns, if you like them or whatnot, but we always like to make sure to do some sort of campaign name. But ultimately what that is there's about 3 steps to it. The first step is going to be education to the businesses. We're sending out notices to our businesses so that our business owners are certainly up to date with all of the recommendations, basically of even the information that's in this resolution, but also CDC guidelines, different things like that, so that our business owners, who, as you know, are committed to trying to protect the customers, are also extremely busy. So this has kind of formulated that to make it nice and easy for them. The second step in this is ultimately going to be able to try to get a commitment from those businesses to practice those proposed actions. When we looked at the proposed resolution, to summarize it, what we really find it to be is ultimately 3 things. The first thing is distance, promoting distance from one another. Your equipment, your seats, your tables, different things like that. The second thing is transparency. That's cleaning schedules, temperature checks, policies for the businesses, occupancy levels, things like that. And then finally is clean and covered. Cleaning all of the items that are getting reused or covering the nose and mouth, or covering between the customer and the employee. And so what we looked at was being able to get commitment from those businesses who are doing those main three things and the many different levels of those three things. And what we believe this could do is help to promote how those businesses are doing it in a very productive way and help encourage any of those businesses who maybe haven't had the opportunity to be able to learn how they might want to do that. And again, we drafted this up from the discussion that our businesses had in the response to this resolution. So I think it takes the intent and the concept of this resolution, and I think it might be able to help kind of project it a little bit in a great unified fashion. The third and final step to this is basically communication to the public, where we can celebrate those businesses that are doing it this way, and we can help inform the public, especially those who are extremely sensitive to needing to know this information on where they can go to be extra safe. We can commit a lot of our resources in being able to try to promote what our businesses are doing and what those businesses and how those businesses are doing these specific things. So by doing this type of a commitment to revive Vermillion, I think that we can say what is coming from this resolution, but ultimately the businesses have kind of come together and formulated this type of a plan. And I think you would join me in being very proud of so many of those proactive businesses that are trying to take the lead in that and trying to set good examples. And I think this is a great opportunity for us to elevate that and also encourage additional businesses throughout the community. So I wanted you to make sure that you were aware of this project that we're working on, of this campaign and the timeline. And provide any feedback that you would like that you feel would be helpful for us, but it might help you in some of your discussions tonight.
Thank you, Nate. Do we have anyone else in the audience today? Anyone in the audience?
Yes, we've got somebody here in Vermillion that wants to speak.
Okay, go ahead.
Hey guys, appreciate it. My name's Colin Lind, owner-operator of the Pizza Ranch as well as a resident here in Vermillion. So just a couple comments. Again, I thought it was great what we worked with John closely on this resolution, kind of piggybacking off of what Nate said. Just some feedback on a personal level from watching these last 2 weeks at the Pizza Ranch in particular. We are still seeing a lot of social distancing, although our tables aren't necessarily X'd off. We still have a lot of our guests that are finding those spots and sitting away from people. Extremely high usage of our sanitizer. That's the first thing people do before they walk in, with it being right available as they enter the door. And then we're utilizing our rotation of utensils and all of our items. So it's definitely a lot more precautionaries that we did a month and a half ago. I shouldn't say a month and a half ago, a year ago, but I think it's working well, and we've seen the guests that are taking on to this. So I definitely support this resolution. I think it's great to keep in the forefront of our minds, and I think our community and our guests are seeing that as well. One positive feedback from it is the guests feel, again, like they have at least a little bit more power in being able to sit and enjoy and feel supportive. Although they know they're taking a risk when they do come out wherever they go, but they're enjoying their experience a little bit more. So I just wanted to give that feedback, and if you guys have any other questions on what we're seeing at Pizza Ranch or the restaurant, I'm more than willing to talk. I appreciate it though, you guys.
Thank you, Colin. Is there anyone else at City Hall that would like to comment at this time?
No additional ones at this time at City Hall.
James, is there any comments on YouTube that should be shared at this time?
No comments on this item.
Council? Are we on council comments?
Now we are. We were just checking on the YouTube, so now we are on to council comments.
Okay, if I may quickly.
Go ahead, Tom.
I want to thank the last two speakers for coming and taking part in this. I think those who show responsibility to ensure proper cleaning and disinfecting and distancing show that businesses can be reliable Dakota. Isn't there somebody in the city or the county that can provide this on a daily basis? So I think our resolution should first of all declare an emergency, and then figure out how to, in the second whereas, add both South Dakota and Clay County instead of just the United States and 100 countries. And then, as Clay County's absent from that, and we're up to 66 now, in the fourth, fifth, and sixth paragraph, or whereases, that's simply a repeat of history. I did do a count, and it looks to me like the number of shalls and musts and requirements has gone up. There's 3 more than just encouragements, so that's a step in the right direction. So because we've had a rise, and because in our penultimate whereas, we declared that this was effective, our emergency ordinance 1413 was effective in establishing social distancing and other measures to reduce the probability of contact. That seems to me that what we did worked. And do we want to dump any part of that? So should some of these things be lifted because we have had a rise, and under the now therefore, there are several of those letters like B, C, D. That's just sort of a repeat of what the existing code is. Businesses are supposed to post their occupancy, and they're not to exceed their occupancy. This is a matter of code enforcement, I guess. So think about how this is worded, and whether businesses can be reliable, and whether after our visit with USD today, how is this all going to be changed or skewed or followed by everybody who comes back to town. Thank you.
Further comments from the council? Go ahead, Steve.
Thank you, Mayor. I sort of am intrigued by the path that the VCDC is following. I know that it's based on the San Antonio Pledge model, right? So do you envision that individual businesses will sign something and that their signature will be made public? So that's my first question, then I got some other things to say.
Sure. A quick answer to that is just the visual aspect of that. What we want to provide is some marketing materials for them. And what we envision is something they would even hang up in their window. And so not only through our promotion, through our marketing, social media, radio, maybe newspaper, emails, different things like that, we would also then try to have something where they would visibly be able to put it up in their locations. And that ultimately would be that signature that they would have. Our marketing material actually does have where they would sign that. If we keep that, we're not sure.
Okay. I like that idea. I think a visible sign that a business is adhering to this pledge, I think is a good idea. To the rest of the council, I want you to think about what the VCDC's plan is in line with the resolution enough that we don't need a resolution, or if our resolution should supplement what the VCDC is thinking about. I don't think it matters one way or the other. We have to keep in mind that the resolution has no enforcement powers. There are no fines associated with them. So I'll just leave it at that and weigh in later.
Thank you, Steve. Other comments from the council at this time? And I can't see everyone right now, so if you just want to speak up, that would be great. I had to switch formats, so
I will speak, okay. Just a couple of comments. I previously worked in a restaurant a long time ago, and I worked in the kitchen. And I'm noticing that most of this is about the public safety as far as, you know, like the interaction between the staff and the public. I'm curious if there is much available for, and I know it's hard in the kitchen, but can much be done as far as maybe just masks in the kitchen or, you know, encouragement of things like that. And I keep saying kitchen because like that's the one business, that's the primary business where you have people dealing with something that goes to the public without the people going to the public. So that is one question I have. And like I said, maybe it's just masks, but that's something. And then the other thing, I am not seeing an expiration for this resolution. Should there be one? Is this ongoing? I'm new to the council. I'm just not sure how that part works.
Thank you, Lindsay. Nate, did you have anything to address that kitchen side of things?
If I may, I think that that's really great feedback. And for one, congratulations on your new appointment, Councilwoman Genoan. But I appreciate that feedback, and I think that we could institute something. I would like to maybe talk a little bit more with them just on kind of the practicality of that. One of the things I would note too that we didn't mention was one of those commitments in that transparency line basically was the checking temperatures when you come in, and so that you can try to help protect not only your customers but your fellow employees. Hopefully maybe that might also be able to be some ways to help protect those that aren't just on the front line of it, but then in the back line on that in those kitchens too.
And then John, could you address the expiration question?
Sure. My understanding is it'd be just like an emergency ordinance only has a life of 60 days. So the emergency resolution would only have a life of 60 days. The council obviously has the opportunity to end it sooner, but 60 days would be the maximum that it could exist.
Thank you.
So can I just follow up on that?
Absolutely.
So on that note, then we could be looking at how to handle the student population like right then, because 60 days from now would be right before the students are returning, right? It sounds like maybe. Okay.
Yeah, I mean, it would be pretty close. Any other comments from the council? And please just chime right in because I'm not going to be able to see everyone right now.
Right, this is Brian, and after listening to what Nate said earlier about the restaurants kind of policing themselves, some of these businesses have been in business for quite a while. Others, like Pizza Ranch, is new here. But for the ones that have been around, they know how to keep their customers. They know how to be safe. So to answer Steve's question too, I don't think we really need this resolution. Maybe that's just me, but you know, I agree with what Steve said about it goes hand in hand. But I think that the restaurants have been doing this for such a long time, most of them, that they know what they're doing, and they also know how to keep people safe because they wouldn't hurt their customers on purpose. So so they know what to do, and I trust that they can, you know, do it and do it in a safe manner.
Nate, this is Steve again. Do you think that the VCDC would appreciate the support of the city with this resolution supporting your efforts? I mean, would it help to have that, or is it doesn't matter?
I really appreciate the question, and if I may, I do believe that the city supporting this effort, and if we call it kind of a campaign or this pledge, I believe that the city supporting that, I think also can be not only a nice tribute, not only to the VCDC trying to help with this, but ultimately this is an opportunity of many of the businesses coming to you and saying, hey, this is what we're willing to do. And I think that it would be a really great testament from the city council to be able to cheer on those businesses. And I feel that a support to this campaign and to that pledge would also basically be a support from the council to those businesses that are taking the initiative and committed to doing it as well as they could. And I do believe that it would be received really well amongst those businesses.
I'm sorry, Nate, this is Catherine. Are you saying that the resolution, passing this resolution would be received as sort of a gesture of we're supporting you in doing this yourselves, or would it be received as the opposite?
I apologize. I think you were cutting out, but did I hear you correct in saying that passing the resolution would be taken as support to this campaign, or something?
I'm asking you that, or would choosing to not pass this resolution send the message that we have confidence in the businesses to do it themselves? I'm asking which message, which action sends which message.
Okay, thank you for that clarification. I'll try to answer that very direct so that I don't go on long-winded. I believe that by not passing the resolution could send a message of support to the businesses by a trust in the business and being able to do it themselves. I think that you have a good amount of business owners and community members that want to be able to see and like the idea of this resolution, but I also do think that not passing this also, I feel, would be a nice vocal statement of saying, we see what you're doing, and knowing that the businesses have a plan to take that commitment on themselves is enough for us right now to put this back in the hands of the businesses. And I believe that that message to those businesses would be very well received. I also do believe that those businesses that do want to be able to support even a statement of resolution like this, I think that they see this pledge as that same context and that same intent, and I think that they would then respond positively to that. So again, if I could, I would say by not passing it and supporting the campaign that we have, I think could go a very long way and bring us all to that goal that we're all trying to achieve.
Thanks, Nate.
Any other comments from the council?
I have another comment to close with.
It looks like Rich also has a comment. So if you don't mind, I'm going to let Rich, since he hasn't spoken yet, and then Tom will get back to you, and I have a comment as well. So go ahead, Rich.
Thank you. If I understood what you said, Nate, this resolution pretty much mimics what you're asking for, and most of the businesses, if not all of them, would not disagree with this. The issue I have with it is if we pass this, or if the general public gets to see what we're talking about. Your particular thing that you're proposing, the businesses would agree to, they would see it, they understand it, but the general public would not know what's involved with that unless you took the effort to publish it in the paper like we have to do and publish it around and be on a website. So that's the reason I think if it doesn't conflict with what you're saying and what you're going to give to your businesses, by us publishing this, the general public will know what we're talking about and what we're doing. So therefore, in that respect, I think it'd be to our advantage to pass the resolution. Comment, please, Nate, if you would.
Thank you very, very much for those comments, as well as the opportunity to reply to that. I apologize. I may have skipped over some of those details of that. We actually would be publicizing those that are taking this pledge and those that are committed to it and what that pledge would mean. So I believe we would actually achieve the same goal of what you're achieving through that publication that the city would do, because we would be doing that publicizing in a lot of different forms, and I would be more than happy for us to publicize it in the paper too, if that would also help us to achieve one of those goals.
Thank you.
Tom, go ahead.
Thank you. First, let me apologize. The audio on my end is extremely difficult to hear and understand everybody. this thing says. State law gives us, the city council, authority to protect the community, promoting health, safety, morals, and general welfare, and the suppression of diseases. And this includes each of us, all the city staff, the volunteers, the babies, the grandchildren, the great-grandchildren, our own children, our own spouses, our students, people who may have problems like are taking chemo, if they have leukemia or something, and cardiac issues, diabetes issues. This is authority to promote the health and safety and general welfare of this community. We have that authority. We are the leaders now, having it's all been passed down to us. So we've got to bear that in mind. This is about the entire public, not just the business community, which I fully support anyway, but we've got to know the perspective again. Thank you.
Thank you, Tom. I guess here's my thoughts on this. We are now, in a, third or fourth iteration of our attempts to address this legally. I think that our authority to do that has been kind of chipped away over time, and we don't necessarily have the support to be able to enforce, and we know that we don't have the enforcement power on this because we don't have a fine or anything. So I guess I feel like we have a better chance of being effective through a proactive campaign that rewards people for good behavior, that informs the public because they have the ability to look at that business and know that they are pledging to comply to these things before they go in. And then if that is not happening, they have the ability to call the BCDC and say, these folks should no longer be included in this. And we have the ability to continue this kind of culture change even past the 60 days. So in my mind, while I don't think that there's anything that's harmed by the resolution, I feel like in trying to achieve our ultimate goals, I think supporting the pledge campaign gets us closer to that. Because I think a big part of this has to be, the fact is that we know even when we had an ordinance, people weren't necessarily complying completely. And I think something that's focused more on, these are the things that we know are keeping people safe. And if you pledge to do that, we're going to take you at your word until you prove otherwise. At least for now, I think is worthwhile. And if we get, 2 weeks or a month down the road and we find that this is not effective, I think we still can have those conversations. But, 2 weeks ago, the businesses said that they wanted this responsibility. And this seems like a good proactive public health campaign to do that. So I guess my preference at this point would be to drop the resolution and support the campaign for the time being. I don't know if anyone has thoughts. Julia?
I guess I just want to say that ultimately my goal is to keep us as safe as possible. And while I don't necessarily agree with some of the reasoning behind denying the resolution, ultimately, if some people might feel that this kind of government regulation, even if it has no teeth, will make them not take the pledge and make them not move in this direction of the CDC guidelines, even with everything going on with our increase in numbers. I think in my 2 years on council, I think people have seen that I try to take a very practical stance. And so again, even if I don't agree, and while I would prefer a resolution, and frankly, I would support the ordinance that we discussed last time, and even stricter regulations, But if that's going to make people turn the other way and not behave in not behave in the CDC guidelines and not as I would like them to see, then I will support denying the resolution only if that moves people in the direction of ultimately practically doing what I would like people to do. So I guess I just want to explain my vote before we get there.
Thank you, Julia. Anyone else?
Kelsey, could I speak?
Yes, go ahead.
What if we added a line to the resolution at the end and say something like, we'd list all the things that we list in the resolution, and we end the resolution with, now therefore be it further resolved that the city encourages all members of the public within the city of Vermillion to continue to follow CDC guidelines, social distancing practices, recommended hygiene, and supports the VCDC in its efforts to bring together businesses to pledge their commitment to the safety of Vermillion residents. Or if we had a name for the for the thing that you're doing, Nate, we could just add that in there.
I think he's got a name.
We always have a name. I don't know if I ever learned a specific one, but this one is a commitment to revive Vermillion.
Okay.
Just to give context.
So we could just put at the end that name instead of my poor wording. I'm going to move that right now. So at the end, we would strike. I guess I keep the utilize, strike and to, and keep comma, utilize face masks when social distancing spacing can't be maintained, comma, and therefore support the BCDC's, say it again, Nate, commitment to revitalizing
commitment to revitalizing Vermillion.
I would second Steve's motion.
We've got a motion and a second. Do we have any further discussion? I guess I will say my concern is, again, especially because this has a date on it that expires in 60 days as opposed to an ongoing commitment. And I do believe, from what I heard from the responses of the business owners to the resolution, I worry that we might be, I'm not sure if adding this to the end is going to be what gets them on board.
Yeah. Well, the intent of my motion is to support the BCDC's campaign. And if there are things that need to be struck from the resolution that would make it more palatable, Nate, to folks, then I'm willing to strike those things. I'm open to strike those things.
I really appreciate that, and I might be able to maybe provide a couple of comments, but before I do, Mayor Collier-Wise, I know you have trouble seeing a couple of the images. I know Councilman Holland was just raising his hand. I'd like to hear from council until I respond to anything else.
Okay, thank you. Go ahead, Rich.
Basically, I think what Steve wants is saying the same thing. I agree with you, Kelsey. I think if we're going to enforce, not enforce, but enhance, I guess the right word is, our support of VCDC, the best way to do it is to deny this, this resolution. And since Nate or VCDC is willing to publicize so the public knows as well, I think it'll be more effective with no timeline and also be an incentive for the various companies in Vermillion to adhere to this. Thank you. That's it.
I'm going to double down on my own dislike of denying the resolution, but again, I think ultimately if what we want is to change a culture and people don't want to change their culture based on government regulation, but rather on their own accordance, then I will move to deny the resolution.
I think, Mayor, you have a motion and a second on the floor right now.
Okay. Is there any further discussion?
I think Sorensen has.
I'm almost not believing this. The buck's going from Washington to Pier to Vermillion, and now we're going to pass it on to the VCDC. We need to take care of this as the elected leaders of this community.
Tom, I agree with you, but ultimately, if what we want is to make change and for people to behave in accordance to the guidelines, and people are so resistant to government regulation to the point that they're unwilling to do what they're already planning to do by doing the pledge, then I'm not sure what good it does. And like I said, I agree with you. I would much rather have stronger regulations. I would prefer to have the ordinance over a resolution, frankly. But bottom line is that the most important thing right now is that all of us make a culture change. And if those things are in this pledge and people are more willing to take the pledge on their own, then that's what we'll need to do. And frankly, if this doesn't work and we see a greater increase, I will be the first to push for greater regulations.
Well, what about non-chamber members?
Nate, would you like to address maybe what Steve had asked before and Tom's question there?
Sure. And sorry, Tom, I didn't hear your question on it. Could
He
I
asked about what about non-chamber members?
Okay, thank you. And so sorry, Steve, I'm going to ask for the direct question again so I can make sure to try to answer as direct as possible. I think you were asking about the thought on adding that line, is that right?
Well, I was asking if there are any specific provisions in the resolution that are repugnant to downtown business owners, that at least are very concerning, then I'm willing to consider striking those. So I'll leave it at that instead of talking.
Great. Thank you. I believe I can actually answer a couple of your questions with about the same answer, and then if I can, I'll maybe give one more commentary on the sense of it. The first answer I want to give is the general sense of it. Again, as the VCDC and the Chamber of Commerce, we are a membership-driven organization. We ensure that we want to advocate and promote for our members, and so we, in everything we do, we make sure that we are taking our members into consideration for this. That being said, during this time, not only have we actually increased our membership, but there are oftentimes we every now and then look out at the greater good and the general business community. This proposed campaign and the proposed commitment to revitalizing Vermillion and the ability for a business to take a pledge, we would not require that they are members of the Chamber of Commerce. If we have a non-member who says, hey, I want to sign our name here and I want to display this in there, we certainly will make ourselves available for them so that any and all businesses that want to be able to take that pledge and show that positive example, we will be sure to set aside, the commitment to our membership value and make sure to get that available to our members. So I hope that answers not only Mr. Sorensen's question on if this will be available to just chamber members, but also, Steve, just point out, it wouldn't just be the downtown businesses. It would be all and any businesses in our community be able to bring in that general business sense. And if I may, I do feel it is important to, again, maybe stress, there's an old saying out there, and if I can, pardon the example that I may give, but there were the story of the monks who asked their leader if they could pray while they smoke. And their leader said, no, that's pretty disgraceful. You know, when you're praying, don't smoke. Focus on praying. The next day, the monks come and they say, hey, can we smoke while we pray? And the leader said, well, sure, you can pray anytime. Or excuse me, can you pray while you smoke? You can pray anytime. And he's listening. The point of that is a lot of times it's in the delivery of our question, and it's in the delivery of our answers that we try to provide that. And I do believe that, again, a sense of providing and inviting some of our businesses to take that lead and doing this together, I think maybe can mitigate some of the us versus them challenge that we have. We as businesses coming to the council, we know that it is not a you versus us and an us versus you. And I think that this is an opportunity for us to try to say that together. And I agree, and I think that everybody would understand that if things do get worse, that there might be different times when our government needs to step in. And I think that nobody objects to that. But I do think that there is a great sense that it offers the opportunity for our businesses to be able to say, we're committed to this too, and let us show you, as opposed to being told directly what to do. I think that a lot of businesses are asking for that opportunity as well. And I do think that a vote down of this resolution could actually show that from this council, and you have the ability to do it later on if you really feel necessary. And so I just want to reiterate, I appreciate Julia's comments as well as a number, and I know, Steve, where your intention is in this, and I appreciate that. I just wanted to try to provide a little bit more clarification. And I apologize for messing up my monk example. Usually I hit that one on the head.
Thanks, Nate. I guess, I agree with Julia as well on many of the things that she said. We came out of the last meeting not passing our emergency ordinance because we didn't feel like we had the authority to be able to enforce it. That was, I think, the main discussion. And in trying to figure out how we might work it out, what came out of that was, what if we had a resolution that we worked with the businesses on, that they could be happy with, that we all worked on together? In the course of that conversation, this idea of a proactive pledge came, and that's what they said they would feel more comfortable with. In the end, as much as I believe in the spirit of the resolution, it is somewhat hollow, especially without the support, because it doesn't have an enforcement mechanism. If we had the support with it, I think it would be great. And I think that the pledge is we have about the same enforcement capability either way. The pledge is a positive way, I guess, where people can say, I am committed to doing this. And I also think that it provides the public with better choices, because I know one of the things that happened when we, let our ordinance expire was that people no longer knew where they could go. They would go to a store that 2 weeks ago everyone had been wearing masks and suddenly they weren't. And that's really frightening. Or to a restaurant that they thought was engaging in a certain practice and had stopped. This is a way of saying, we know exactly what people are saying that they're doing. And it also is a way of, if someone chooses to not engage, that tells the public that they are not, taking these steps that are recommended by the CDC. So that's why at this point, I would not support pushing the resolution forward. Are there any other comments? And please go ahead and chime in again.
This is Howard. I agree with you that if we deny this, but we still have the opportunity, if things go south, we can reenact it in July if we have to put stronger teeth in. But this way, we're giving the business people the opportunity to say, we can take care of it ourselves and do a good job.
Mayor, could you have Mike please repeat the motion that's on the floor?
Go ahead, Mike.
The motion was to approve the resolution by adding to the end, striking the "and to," and then adding "and support the VCDC in the efforts to bring together businesses to pledge commitment to revitalizing Vermillion campaign." That sounds somewhat right, Steve?
Okay, is that a separate motion as an amendment?
I think
That is the motion.
my understanding was a motion to approve the resolution, and with the addition of that last comment, or last,
So this is an amendment in my mind. Could someone decide that?
Is Jim there?
Here. You
Jim,
have in
does
front of you
this need to be an amendment to the resolution?
the way Steve stated his motion. It was not an amendment. He did make some revisions to the resolution as presented by administration, but it's not an amendment because he made the motion to include that revision. If somebody else, and then that motion was seconded. If someone were to want to further amend what Steve has moved and there's been a second for, that would be a motion to amend.
So when,
Thank you, Jim.
When do ideas start becoming amendments?
I would move the question.
Got a call of the question. We have a motion and a second. All in favor, please signify at the roll.
Genowine,
No.
Helwig,
No.
Holland,
No.
Humphrey,
No.
Price,
Aye.
Sorensen.
Again, I'm having audio trouble. Are we voting on calling the question?
No, I think the mayor asked for a call on the motion to approve the resolution with the change in wording to the end of it.
Well, I think we need to open Robert's rules because if a motion to call the question is made, it requires a 2/3 vote. So you're clarifying this.
If you want to help us out.
Voting on the resolution with this addition? Is that correct?
Jim, can you help us out here?
There's not a motion to amend the resolution. There's a motion to adopt the resolution.
What are we voting on? The resolution as it's been added to?
As it's been added to in the last sentence, yes. As I understand it, Steve's motion is to approve the resolution exactly as it reads from the beginning until the end, and then you strike the "and to" in the very last sentence, get rid of the face mask references if you can't achieve social distancing, and encourage cooperation with the VDC in order to come up with an initiative from local business. That's what I understand the import of the whole thing is. And then that was seconded.
Okay, thank you. My vote is no.
Ward,
Aye.
Wilson,
No.
Mayor Collier-Wise.
No. Motion fails.
Well, that was slick.
Mike and John, can you help me out? Do we continue the discussion or is this the end of the discussion on this subject.
I guess I'll look to Mr. McCall. I don't know that it ends discussion on that. I would note you still do have the cleanup item related to the parks that was mentioned earlier, which wasn't addressed in the resolution. Jim, do you feel that that ends discussion on it, or just on that motion?
If, unless someone makes another motion relating to a different version of that resolution, that's it on that resolution. You go on to Parks and Recreation.
All right.
Sorry, Kelsey, can I make a question? I have a question, maybe.
Yes, go ahead.
So the part that I don't think is covered by the pledge is at the end, the part where the city encourages the members of the public to participate or within certain practices, and I feel that we're really lacking if we don't pass something that still encourages at least the public behavior. Like we've talked about the business part of everything, but what about the public behavior? And I know that enforceability is a challenge, but encouragement might not be. Is there room for discussion on that, or are we done?
Would we be able to pass a resolution that was essentially just that last piece? Because I don't disagree with Lindsay on that.
We could do a proclamation. I know July, I believe, is Parks and Rec Month, but maybe we could do also a similar kind of symbolic, proclaim support and encouragement of wearing masks, and maybe July is Public Health Safety Month or something like that.
I also wonder if there's a place for individuals to be able to sign on to the pledge, perhaps, and the city, and that could be something that we could proclaim, because I think that there's a piece where, encouraging individual participation kind of in the same way might be, again, a way to get us more on the same page and moving towards that cultural change, which seems to be one of the most difficult things right now. Are there any other thoughts? And please speak up. I'm sorry again.
I think a proclamation is a good idea. I think we could draw something up before the next meeting in conjunction with the VCDC's campaign, and draw something up that encourages public participation in the campaign, as well as businesses to sign on to it, and just generally everybody to hold each other accountable to doing the right thing.
All right. I think that sounds great, and let's discuss that going forward. What are thoughts on the Parks and Rec item? And please just go ahead, because I'm not going to be able to see you.
I think we should open the playgrounds and the basketball courts. The school's going to open their playgrounds this month, as of today. And if parents are concerned, they can take wipes with them where their children are playing on playground equipment, and take some sanitizing lotion with them and do that. So I think if we need a motion, I'll make a motion that we open up the playgrounds and basketball courts.
And I second Howard's. We do need to open it up, because even if you are the best parent ever or grandparent, and you go there with your kids, are you really? I mean, honestly, are you really going to be wiping off your kid's hand after they touch anything? I mean, I would be very surprised to see that. And just like if any kids go there by themselves, and if someone gets sick, you don't know if it's because of those kids that were there alone. You don't know if it came from Walmart or another business. You just don't know. So I agree with Howard that we do need to open up the playgrounds and give the kids some places to play safely, and give them something to actually do this summer. So thank you, Howard.
We have a motion and a second. Is there any other discussion?
I could not hear the motion, I'm sorry.
Tom, the motion was to open up the playgrounds and the basketball courts.
Did they open? The reason I ask is as a parent of a high school student, I know that they pushed some activities that they were going to start today. They pushed them to Wednesday because of the current situation.
If I may, Mayor?
Yes.
Go ahead, John.
I believe Councilmember Genowine is correct. That was the plan last week. They were supposed to open today. And I don't have anything official from the district, but my understanding was they moved that opening to later this week. I did not know the exact date, but it may very well be Wednesday.
Thank you, John. Further discussion from the council?
About the school playground, when I talked to the superintendent, he said that that the Parks and Rec department and the schools are working in unison. So once we open, then they'll open. So I believe that they are just waiting for us to give the green light, just to give the go ahead. And we really need to do this, guys. I'm sorry.
I guess I'm gonna disagree with you, Brian. I think we've had tripling of our infections. We have opened a lot of things up. Continually, this is the one thing that we still have some control over, and until I feel like we're starting to decrease, I think, you know, the part that we can play in taking the pledge to keep people safe is to encourage distancing, and we still have absolutely no way to enforce distancing in these two areas. And so that's where I continue to stand on this. If 2 weeks ago, I thought we would be opening this up, but things in this town look very different than they did 2 weeks ago. Any other comments? Hearing none, we have a motion and a second to open up playgrounds and basketball courts. All those in favor, please signify at the roll.
Genowine.
No.
Helwig.
No.
Holland.
Yes.
Humphrey.
Yes.
Price.
No.
Sorensen.
Not seeing this on the agenda, I'll vote no.
Ward.
No.
Wilson.
Yes.
Mayor Collier-Wise.
No. Motion fails. Do we have anything else to cover under this item, John? I'm sorry to keep checking. There's
No.
just a lot of to-dos.
Those were the two items related to that item, related to COVID.
Okay. Thank you. And thank you for all of your work on all of this. I know city staff has basically been in all COVID, all the time mode for many, many months, and that's been a lot of research and adjustments, and we really, really appreciate it. Moving on to our next item, new business 8C, request to close Market Street from West Main Street to the southern border of Broadingen Platts and West Main Street from the west end of Broadingen Platts to the west crosswalk of Main and Port Street intersections for Thursdays on the Platts event. And John?
Thank you. This item was discussed pretty thoroughly earlier, but I'll just kind of reiterate that earlier you had the approval of the malt beverage and wine permits and for the 8 Thursdays on the Platts events. Those street closings would begin on the schedule July 9th, and they would run every Thursday through August 27th if the if the situation permits, and as Nate mentioned, the volunteers and all the protocols to be worked out. The street closing before you is from 4 p.m. to 8 p.m. on those respective Thursdays. The event actually runs 5:30 to 7:30. It is a little bit larger space this year, as was noted earlier, and again, that's to provide for some social distancing. And just a reminder, the proposed distance is the west line of the court in Main Street intersection west through the west end of Radigan Platts, and then Market Street from Main Street south to the south line of Radigan Platts.
Is there anyone in the audience or on YouTube that has a comment on this item?
Mayor, no on both of them. James, give me a hand signal.
All right, thank you. Turning it to the council.
I move approval.
Second.
Got a motion by Holland and a second by Wilson. Is there any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Genowine?
Aye.
Helwig?
Aye.
Holland?
Aye.
Humphrey?
Aye.
Price?
Aye.
Sorensen?
I'll say aye unless we have a spike.
Ward?
Aye.
Wilson?
Aye.
Mayor Collier-Wise?
Aye. Motion carries. Next item, new business, item D, first reading of ordinance 1415, emergency ordinance to amend the special event definition and expand special licensing to current license holders.
Thank you. There's a lot of information, and we've had a lot of discussions on this item over the last, probably I'll say about 10 days. Due to COVID-19 and trying to provide additional opportunities to help people socially distance, some outdoor opportunities, which is a little bit different environment and hopefully be safer, would go to kind of helping to rebuild or help our economy grow. We had some discussions about how do we add additional spacing for our restaurants and bars, potentially using some of the parking stalls. And so you have one item before you this evening, ordinance 1415, which is also an emergency ordinance. I'll touch on that in a second. But related to this, if this passes, then you would have a second meeting on Monday, June 22nd at noon, a special meeting to kind of address the second reading of this ordinance as well as some other follow-up items related to that. So what this emergency ordinance 1415 before you does is two things. One is it amends the special event definition. It removes that the event can't be for personal or commercial gain. This is to help our restaurants, our bars, our business community. In the past or currently, our special event permits are only to help our nonprofits with special entities. So that's one part of this ordinance before you. The second one is that it expands that the licensee, they could take the current licenses that they have and they would be able to sell those same products in this special designated space. So expands the language in there to include the current license holders for licenses that they currently have. So if they have an on-sale liquor, that would be permitted. The beer and wine, which most all of them do have, that would also be permitted as well. I would note there's a couple of things that you might say, why did we use the emergency ordinance language on this? Part of that was to help this come about quicker, if this is a direction the council wants to go. If not, we go our standard route and we can take the emergency language off of there. It would be about the middle to end of July before we could move this process through, and so a good portion of the summer has gone away, or the opportunities for that. The bad potentially is an emergency ordinance, as we're all too familiar with this year, only have a 60-day lifetime, but this would provide an opportunity for the council to measure how this is working, businesses to measure how it works, and see if this is something that you want to continue. I would note that the ordinance right now and the date before you, and this is one of the things that Nate and the chamber and the business community need to work out, has a proposed implementation date to begin June 30th. That June 30th then goes through August 30th, so it gives them that last opportunity, the last weekend in August, to work on this. As I noted, there would be a lot of different things that if you want to advance this on a second reading, you would have at your Monday, June 22nd meeting. The fee schedule right now is $20 a day plus the $15 advertising fee for the licensing. There's been discussion that maybe we need to look at reducing that $20 daily fee down there in particular. Obviously, you need street closings. That would be another item before you at that special meeting. And then if this goes forward, you need to consider the actual permit applications from those private license holders. So tonight's the easy night in terms of addressing this. This one is really about making 2 changes. Just letting you know you're setting yourself up for some work at Monday noon, the 22nd. So be happy to answer questions, and Mike is also very well versed to explain the nuances of alcohol licenses as we know.
Thank you, John. Is there anyone in the audience or on YouTube that has any comments on this item?
Kelsey, we have somebody here at City Hall.
Okay, go ahead.
Hi, Jim Waters, 804 East Lewis. Basically what this is about is we've been discussing as businesses to take over some parking spots in front of our buildings to set up outdoor seating so we can have more outdoor seating and more social distancing and sharing those pods between a couple different businesses. There'd be one basically between Cafe Brulee and Carrie's, one between Brickhouse and Pub, Our Pizza and the Bean, OLC and Hartford Steakhouse. And that way we could put some outdoor seating into some of those parking spots, and we can still be able to serve our customers the same products as they could get inside the building without having the legal juggling around that. So that's kind of what we're working to do, is to create more outdoor seating for customers for the social distancing. So that's what it's about. If you have any questions for me, I'd gladly answer.
Are there any other comments from the public?
No, none on this item.
Okay, I'll turn it to the council.
Thank you.
Are there any council comments?
I think we have essentially already discussed this earlier. So thanks, Jim, for speaking, but especially thank you to Leslie Garish and to Nate Welch, who have been working on this. I think it's a good and creative idea, and with that, I move for approval.
Second.
Got a motion and a second. Is there any further discussion?
I have a question. Have we given thought to, if we're going to close off those parts of Main Street, to temporarily slow down the traffic? Because if there's a family out there eating and have children, they could dart out into the street real easy, because all we're going to have is post signs to barricade them from getting into the traffic area. I'm for it, but I think we need to slow traffic down on that block or 2 blocks of Main Street.
If I may, Mayor?
Go ahead, John.
Thank you. We have been working in the couple meetings we've had with the businesses. We've identified in particular the need to make sure that we have adequate protection, if you will, parallel to Main Street where the traffic is moving versus, so what we're looking at are a couple different things. One is, if you're from Jersey, I've said I apologize, but they're called Jersey barriers. They're basically some Jersey barriers that would become the boundaries between the people that are eating, enjoying the outdoor space in the establishment, and the traffic that's moving east to west. We may not require the same sort of thing, but yet still have a barrier that is perpendicular. So if you're parallel to the car that's parked next to it. So we are looking at those because we realize that safety is important there. Access would be up to the sidewalk. It wouldn't be through the street. It wouldn't be through the parking stall. It would be through the sidewalk there. So that is an important part of it. Those are one of the details that staff, the business group, and the chamber are still working on.
Any other comments from the council?
I have a question.
If not, we have was there a question?
How many more parking, or excuse me, seats is this planning to create? Jim said some of those parking spots. How many?
I guess we don't know the exact details, and I think that's Nate and the business group. They're working hard this week to kind of put all those pieces together to present a more complete plan to you next week. And so, they're looking at the number of parking stalls. They're looking at what table configurations might be. So we don't have a specific answer to that at this point in time, unless there's been further developments. I'm looking at Nate.
If we keep proper distancing, 2, 3 parking places might not add
The proposed date of the ordinance right now, and that's one of the things that we're still working on, this ordinance would go from June 30th to August 30th. Now, that may be adjusted depending on how quickly that barriers can be set up, tables can be found, some things like that. But any ordinance like this, it's an emergency ordinance, has a 60-day life.
Any further discussion from the council?
I kind of favor that second option, actually, rather than mess with the ordinance.
Any further comments from the council? Seeing none, we have a motion and a second. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye at the roll.
Genowine.
Aye.
Helwig.
Aye.
Holland.
Aye.
Humphrey.
Aye.
Price.
Aye.
Sorensen.
No.
Ward.
Aye.
Wilson.
Aye.
Mayor Collier-Wise.
Aye. Motion carries. And give me 1 second. I'm going to scroll up to the top again. All right, it doesn't appear we have any bid openings, so city manager's report. John?
Thank you, Mayor. Several items here. Our Library Board of Directors, they do have a meeting this Thursday, June 18th at noon. Just a reminder, we do have 5 terms available on our Planning and Zoning Commission. The terms are expiring at the end of this month. We do ask interested individuals to please complete an expression of interest form. We ask that those expression of interest forms to serve in the Planning and Zoning Commission be completed and returned by Wednesday, July 1st at 5 p.m. And then those will be presented to the City Council for an appointment at the July 6th meeting. Again, a reminder to please complete your census if you haven't already done so. That helps our city, our county, and our state. The Fire Department and Parks and Rec and our Water Department are offering some hydrant parties, a different type of opportunity to help our youth have a little bit different opportunity this particular summer. Those hydrant parties, as they're called, will start on Tuesday, June 23rd, and they will run every Tuesday through July 28th, and we do have 4 locations. The Bluffs Golf Course at 1 p.m., Trinity Lutheran Church at 2, Hillside Church at 3 p.m., and the Armory parking lot at 4 p.m. Participants are asked to please wear a shoe or sandal. Social distancing will be enforced, and please only attend one of these opportunities each Tuesday, and particularly we'd ask the one closest to your neighborhood. And if Tuesday happens to be a rainy day, then the event would occur the next day on Wednesday. City offices will be closed on Friday, July 3rd with the holiday on Saturday, July 4th. Going back to the very beginning of our meeting, we talked a little bit about there's a proclamation on Juneteenth. I just want to let the public know this Friday, June 19th, there's a Chalk the Block. It's between 4 and 8 West Main, basically in front of McVicker Plaza. This event's a celebration of Juneteenth, looking for messages of hope, support, celebration, and education in honor of history of this particular day. Some light refreshments will be available. We do ask that participants follow CDC guidelines on social distancing and mask wearing. And those are all the items I have, Mayor.
And I just wanted to correct one thing, and Julie might help me out with that. I think that the event is happening in front of, across the street, in front of the Bean and the movie theater. Is that correct?
It's both. So it's going to be both in front of the VCDC and in front of our Pizza and the Bean.
Okay, so on both sides of the street. Awesome. All right, invoices payable. Are there any questions for Mike?
Mayor,
I'm
Tom
sorry, what was
Sorensen
that?
has a question.
Okay, go ahead.
If you opened up the questions for the city manager, I didn't hear it.
Oh, sorry about that. Go ahead.
I think was your. No, this year, the July 4th fireworks are not being conducted. The VCDC had put out a program, or what's the word I'm looking for? A GoFundMe opportunity to see if we could build some community support for it. And I don't know the exact number that was raised. I think it was around $600-800 last time I had heard. And so the fireworks were not going to be held this year, somewhat due to funding, but also due to some social distancing concerns about having an event like that.
Any other questions for our city manager? All right, turning again to Mike and invoices payable. Are there any questions on invoices payable?
Move we pay our bills.
Second.
Got a motion and a second to pay our bills. All those in favor, please indicate at the roll.
Genowine.
Aye.
Helwig.
Aye.
Holland.
Aye.
Humphrey.
Aye.
Price.
Aye.
Sorensen. Ward.
Aye.
Wilson.
Aye.
Mayor Collier-Wise.
Aye. Motion carries. Next item is the consensus agenda. Item A, set a public hearing for noon of June 22nd, 2020 for a special daily malt beverage and wine license for the Vermillion Chamber of Commerce and Development Company on or about June 23rd through June 27th, June 29th through July 4th, July 6th through July 11th, July 13th through July 18th, July 20th through July 25th, July 27th through August 1st, August 3rd through August 8th, August 10th through August 15th, August 17th through August 22nd, and August 24th through August 29th, 2020, on 3 sections of closed parking spaces on Main Street between Prospect Street and Center Street, 1 section of closed parking space on Court Street between Main Street and Kidder Street, and 1 section of closed parking space on Kidder Street between Court Street and Market Street for special events.
The consensus agenda.
Second.
Got a motion and a second to pass the consensus agenda. All those in favor, please indicate by saying aye at the roll.
Genowine.
Aye.
Helwig.
Aye.
Holland.
Aye.
Humphrey.
Aye.
Price.
Aye.
Sorensen.
No.
Ward.
I think it should
Aye.
Wilson.
Aye.
Mayor Collier-Wise.
Aye. Motion carries. I will take a motion to adjourn.
Move we adjourn.
Second.
Got a motion and a second to adjourn. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Genowine.
Aye.
Helwig.
Aye.
Holland.
Aye.
Humphrey.
Aye.
Price.
Aye.
Sorensen. Ward.
Aye.
Wilson.
Aye.
Mayor Collier-Wise.
Aye. We are adjourned. Thank you all.